You booked a normal Uber ride, but your driver hasn't looked at the GPS once. He's only been watching you. You're 2 miles past your house, and the cancel trip button isn't working. Then, you hear it. He just engaged the child's safety locks, and he's not slowing down. I was visiting Hollywood with my boyfriend. It was around Halloween. It wasn't too late at night, maybe 10:30 p.m. I requested a short ride from outside of a bar back to our hotel. The hotel was only about 10 minutes away. The Uber was booked under my account, with a typical female name. We were standing at the pickup spot for a while. I kept watching the guy on the app. He seemed to be going up and down, around the block. He was circling for no reason. Before finally, he stopped nearby, but not on the same street where we were. I was getting super frustrated at this point. I wanted to cancel, but I couldn't do it without paying a fee. Then we realized he had pulled into a nearby parking lot, and we found him there. We both got into the back seat. My boyfriend sat directly behind the driver. I sat on the right side. The driver started joking about how he couldn't find the right spot. He kept blaming the app for the confusion. Whatever, at that moment, it felt fine. But as we pulled out of the parking lot, things changed. The driver started making comments about the women lined up on the street. They were outside the clubs in their Halloween outfits. He looked at them and said, "Look at this, huh? Out here with nothing on, and then they complain when they get raped." I was feeling super uncomfortable at this point. I didn't know what to say, so I just gave a nervous laugh. He took off down the street. He was an older man, and there was a bit of a language barrier. I didn't want to cause any problems, so I stayed quiet. After a few streets, he suddenly turned onto the freeway. And then, at that exact moment, he locked all the car doors. This was red flag number 2 for me. I knew exactly where our hotel was. There was absolutely no reason to get on a freeway to get there. None of our other drivers had taken this route. Whenever I mapped it myself, the freeway was never an option. Maybe it was a legit shortcut, but it just felt super sketchy. And it was a very weird time to choose to lock the doors. I just kept watching the car on my app. I wanted to make sure we were still headed in the right direction. I was checking if the trip had been ended, or if anything was off. The driver kept making small talk, trying to act normal. Then, my boyfriend piped up from the back seat and said something. This startled the driver. I mean, he actually jumped. He laughed and played it off after a second. But he was clearly shocked. He hadn't realized my boyfriend had even been in the car with us. He hadn't paid any attention to him getting in. He looked at me and said, "Oh wow. I thought you were alone." After this, he didn't say another word. He quietly drove us back to the hotel. The rest of the trip took about 15 minutes in total silence. Ultimately, everything was fine. We reached the hotel safely. My boyfriend was just like, "Yeah, that was weird." He mostly brushed it off as the guy just being a bit creepy. But something about it has stuck with me. It's been stuck in my head for a long time. I honestly wonder if things would have been different if I really had been alone. Maybe he was just a harmless, misogynistic older guy. I don't know. But the whole situation just doesn't sit right with me. And I still feel that cold, uncomfortable shiver every single time I think about it. I had a stalker. And I couldn't tell anyone. Especially not the police. Because at the time, I was selling drugs. I'm not proud of that part of my life. It hurt people. It hurt families. And I take full responsibility for it. But this story isn't about excuses. It's about what happened when one customer became obsessed with me. His name was Jerry. At first, Jerry seemed normal. He bought from me a few times. Then I noticed something strange. Every time he paid, he added extra money. Tips. I never asked for them. I never wanted them. Then one day, he asked my shoe size. I told him clearly, "Do not buy me shoes." The next time I saw him, he showed up holding a box. Inside was a pair of rhinestone heels. He smiled and said they didn't accept returns. I felt pressured, so I accepted them. But even back then, I knew what that gift really meant. He expected something back. And that scared me. Because he also had power over me. At any moment, he could report me to the police. I sleep with my phone on silent. I still do. One morning, I woke up and checked my phone. 20 missed calls. More than 50 unread messages. All from Jerry. He had somehow found out I went to Disneyland with my boyfriend. A relationship I had kept private. No social media posts. No public photos. Nothing. But Jerry knew. His messages got worse the more I read. He called me ungrateful, two-faced. Then said I was dead to him, and never to contact him again. I remember staring at the screen, wondering how he knew where I had been. After that, I thought it was over. It wasn't. I started seeing him everywhere. One afternoon, I was studying at the public library. There were empty seats all around me. Jerry walked in, looked around, and sat directly across from me. He opened a book, pretended to read, but I could feel him watching me. Another time, I left a manicure appointment, and he was standing outside, waiting. At that point, I was already living in fear. Other dealers in the area were getting arrested. Every time I left my house, I wondered if it would be the last normal day of my life. Now I had something else to fear. Jerry. Not just getting caught, not just losing everything, but what one obsessed person might do, even years later. That stress still stays with me. One day, I was about to enter a grocery store. When Jerry approached me again, he smiled and asked, "Do you want to hear a poem I wrote?" I said no. Dropped my cart, and ran straight back to my car. That same day, I told my boyfriend everything. He said he'd handle it. Later, he confronted Jerry with a few friends. As far as I know, they didn't hurt him. But they scared him enough to make him disappear. And after that, I never saw Jerry again. By then, I knew I had to leave that life behind. So I quit. Just like that, I told everyone I was done. Some were disappointed. Most found someone else. But I was finished. I never found out what happened to Jerry. And I don't want to know. What I do know is that he changed how I see safety forever. Now I avoid places where I can't get help quickly. And sometimes, I still wonder how long he had been watching me before I ever noticed him. When I was 11 years old, I had just started walking home from school alone. It was the first year my parents trusted me to do it. Every afternoon, I'd take the same route home, and nothing bad had ever happened. My house sat at the end of a quiet driveway. There were no neighbors close by. Just a long path, a small gate, then a staircase leading to the front door. It always felt peaceful there. That day seemed normal too. I opened the gate, walked up the stairs, and pulled out my key. Then something made my stomach drop. I turned around. An old woman was standing directly behind the gate, just staring at me. I never heard footsteps. I never saw her walk up. 1 second I was alone. The next second, she was there. To this day, I still don't know if she followed me home, or if she had been waiting near the house. She looked at me and smiled. Then she asked, "Can I pick some apples from your garden?" It sounded harmless, but something felt deeply wrong. I can't explain it. Maybe it was how suddenly she appeared. Maybe it was the way she stared. Maybe it was instinct. But every alarm in my body went off. So I lied. I said, "I'll go ask my dad." The truth was, nobody was home. I unlocked the door, rushed inside, and locked it behind me. And then, almost immediately, the handle started moving. Someone was trying to open the front door. She hadn't waited. She didn't hesitate. The second I stepped inside, she came straight up those stairs. That's when I knew she was never there for apples. I panicked. I ran downstairs to the basement. As I reached the bottom steps, loud knocking shook the front door. I froze. I remember thinking, she's just an old lady, right? But what if she wasn't alone? What if she had a weapon? What if the old woman act was fake? I hid inside an old couch in the basement. Lights off. Barely breathing. Listening. Waiting. Every second felt endless. After what felt like forever, everything went quiet. I slowly crept upstairs, looked through the window, and saw her standing near the end of the driveway, just watching the house, completely still. She didn't know I could see her. Then after another minute, she turned and slowly walked away. When my parents came home, I told them everything. They brushed it off, said I was overreacting, said she probably just wanted fruit. But for the next 2 months, I was terrified to come home alone. And even now, years later, I still think about one thing. If I had taken even 2 more seconds locking that door, I might have found out exactly what she wanted. And I know this much. It wasn't the apples.